Okay, this is important, right? Because we're going to start before the music even. This is important. I think everybody needs to hear this that we have our t-shirt contest coming up. We want to give away some very cool free stuff. And
Yeah.
right? We want to
Yeah,
give away
we're
free stuff.
it's free. I mean, come
It's
on.
free. So help us out with a quote or ask us a fun question or go leave a review somewhere. And any of those things can win you free gear on episode 104. So,
104.
right. So where do they find the place to do that, Chris?
Well, I know it's pinned on our Facebook.
It is. Yep.
They can get there that way,
Mhm.
and it's just a Google Sheets link, right?
That's right.
That they
So
go to. Yeah, yeah.
if you wanted to email us, stakeholderprepping@gmail.com, if you don't have Facebook or you don't follow us on Facebook, and we can send that to you.
And then we also have the link on our blog at stakeholderprepping.com, right?
Oh yeah, it's in one of the blogs. I mean, in pretty much any one of the recent blogs, there will be a link to that, and I'll make sure that that's updated as well. You're right. So there's a number of different places to find that.
Yeah, and then it's the best quote gets to design a custom T-shirt with us, and they get their free custom T-shirt, and then it lives on in the semi-sacred halls of stakeholder prepping merch in infamy forever. And then the questions we will answer on air, and they get a prize pack for that. And then what was the third prize option?
Anywhere you can leave a review. So iTunes is probably the best place. I don't know where else you can leave a review. Maybe Amazon as well. But leave us a cool 5-star review, and we will read it. And if we choose to read it, we will send you free stuff. So yeah, go for it, Chris. Do the intro music thing.
Cool.
In emergency management, the definition of a stakeholder is any person or entity with a vested interest in the survival or recovery of a given community.
This is the Stakeholder Prepping Podcast, where the tactical comes from the practical, and today, you become your own stakeholder.
Here are your hosts, Chris and AC.
Welcome back to Stakeholder Prepping, where you, yes, you are the stakeholder in your own survival. And AC, today's episode is one that kind of honestly surprised me a little bit, because if you had asked me 5 years ago whether preparedness apps were ever going to really become a serious conversation in the prepping community, I probably would have laughed at it and said, absolutely not, because half the community still doesn't trust microwaves, you know?
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, some of them probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, that is fair. I
Yeah.
technically don't, but
But
yeah.
but seriously, yeah, I mean, preparedness and technology have they kind of have this weird relationship, right? And for good reason. And I think this is kind of interesting because we have done prepper app stuff before. We've talked about prepper apps before, but more not really all encompassing apps, not holistic apps. We've talked about like, hey, it's good to have the CDC or ready.gov type apps because of the one feature that they can bring you. But we've really never talked about a holistic preparedness app. Although the whole reason we're doing this is because people have asked us about them. If there is an app that we would recommend to help, track things like your inventory and those kinds of things. So on one hand, I think preparedness people love redundancy and communication and planning and organization. But on the other hand, we also spend a lot of time talking about technology failures and grid failures and cyber attacks and dead batteries and solar flares and EMPs and all that kind of stuff. And how your smart refrigerator is probably spying on your shredded cheese anyway.
Yeah, I don't like that commie shredded cheese.
No, and you just can't trust the refrigerator. That's the weirdest thing. You don't have a smart refrigerator, do you?
No, the smartest thing in our house is probably Barley, the Guardian breed.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of kind of smart homey things, like I have a weather station that I can access remotely, and I've got some of the remote door lock stuff, like that kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of tech that I just have no interest in having in the home because I don't know, I just don't think it really makes your life a lot more convenient. It seems like it just adds more complexity sometimes.
Yeah, I don't need the toaster or the washing machine or the dishwasher to have Bluetooth. That just sounds
No,
too Skynet to me.
it does sound a little Skynetty to me. So yeah, I'm just not interested in that kind of stuff.
And when the toaster laughs, I guarantee it's getting a 9 mil
It's
right through its smug little
getting
toaster slots.
getting shot. Yeah, exactly. When it's the toaster turns out to be a T1000 or
And
something.
honestly, that does raise a valid point. There's always been this tension between kind of digital convenience and analog reliability. You can even look back at radios, and ham radio operators will tell you this. They'll back me up on it. You go to a vacuum tube radio, and that thing is going to last forever, but it's a lot more complex to operate if something breaks than a digital transceiver there that you can just plug and play different chips versus having to know how to verify and replace a vacuum tube or a receiver ampule or something like that. So because your emergency plan on a dead phone is not really an emergency plan, a lot of people shy away from apps on their phone, but holistic true prepping apps that are designed from the ground up to be a prepping app, not just an app with something that you can use as a feature for prepping. Those are rare breeds. And we've done some research. We found some really solid apps. And that's what this episode is really about.
Yeah, and there are a couple of really good apps that we want to talk about, and I think you're right that there's people that are like, "Oh, hold on, everybody. I know where the evacuation route is. I just need to find a phone charger," and that's a problem, right? Having this heavy reliance on technology, especially in preparedness, is tough. But I do want to note here when we're talking about these apps that both of these developers reached out to us within just a couple of days of each other, which was kind of crazy. And one of them actually wanted to sponsor an episode of ours so we could talk about it, but we actually turned that down. We really thought we needed to tell you when we have a dog in the fight and when we don't, especially with regards to compensation. And this just seemed like really good info that we wanted you to have without wondering, "Oh, are they getting paid for this? Is there money on the back end?" We actually turned that down. I'm not gonna tell you which one, but we just one of them reached out and said, "Hey, I'd like to sponsor an episode." And for us, once we started digging into it, we were like, "Man, this is actually really valuable info, and I wanna be able to talk honestly about what we like and what we dislike about some of these." So it made sense for us to say, no, you know what, we'd actually like to do an episode and incorporate the apps anyway. And yeah, we didn't want any compensation on this because we just didn't want a dog in the fight because I want to be able to openly say, hey, here's the things maybe that I don't like or things that could use improvement.
Right. And both of these apps, we got about, what was it, 30 days advanced play before we wrote
Yeah,
this episode,
we
before we
really
wrote out our outline.
We really dug into the both of these a lot, and Chris, I know you'd even provided, some feedback on some of the features that I think have actually, changed within the app because of your feedback. So, no, this was really good. We kinda beta tested these things, not that these apps are in beta, but we beta tested these things, before we even thought about doing an episode on them because, yeah, they were both just had a ton of features, just so many, really feature rich environments in both of these apps that yeah, I think we could talk for hours about each of them. So we're going to kind of have to condense this a little bit to the, hey, here's why or why not type things.
Right. And there is actually a coupon code we have for one of these apps, but we will talk about that later. So, again, there's two of them. But over the last couple of years, we've noticed something kind of changing in the prepper community. So, prepping and prepper apps specifically, they're getting actually kind of useful. And it's weird to see this shift and it's a total mindset shift, um, because they're not gimmicky anymore. They're not just survival quotes and motivational bullshit and a flashlight mode. We're starting to see systems that are genuinely trying to solve real world problems that families run into during emergencies, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not gonna use, like, the AI word, but let's just say that it's not just opening up a, a digital copy of the US Army Field Manual anymore. It's actually some, we'll call it analytics built in, right? There's logic built into these, and I think that's really what is exciting for me about these apps. And I know I want to address this now, Chris, is there's a couple of different schools of thought. There's in when we'll call it in the counter app camp of preppers. One is, why should I download an app? Because the EMP is going to take it out and it's not going to work. And the other argument I think we see a lot from people is, I don't want to put my information into some app that I don't own. I don't want to put my information out there. Like the government is going to look at this app and know I've got a pound of rice and they're going to come get it or something. And
Right.
I want to put both of those to bed, right? I mean, on the security side, both of these apps have they've been pretty open about, they're not selling information. This is secured. They're not, no one else has access to this. These are private servers. And I think it's pretty crazy to think that whatever you put in here, somebody is going to like have access to your stuff and want to come take it. That just seems nuts, because honestly, it doesn't matter how prepared you are and how much stuff you say you have in an app. The Costco is lightly armed and has more shit than this. Like,
And you get more junk mail from Costco and
right. You have a
ads and
reason to
all of
go
that
after
stuff.
Costco. Yeah, Costco, exactly. Costco's sending you a catalog with everything you could go loot and steal from there every month, right? So, yeah, if
And I think we got one email from the one app, that was the welcome and like optional tutorial, right? And then we got the thank you for registering app. Here's our contact number or contact email if you need support. And that was it. I haven't gotten anything from either of these apps since.
I haven't gotten anything either. So, yeah, I think the looters and marauders are probably going to go to Costco and not your house. And on the EMP side, on the digital side, why should I have something digital? Um, yeah, it's a mildly valid argument that if the grid goes down and you don't have anything, sure, I get it. I will say that both of these apps provide some amount of offline-ness, and you can turn a lot of this stuff into PDFs and print it out. So as far as just looking at this as an organizational tool, that's one counter argument to that. And I would say the other thing is, if you really truly are worried about anything digital because the EMP is going to take it out, there's just so many other things in your life you probably don't have. You're probably not listening to a podcast right now because Spotify and EMP is going to take it out or whatever. Like, it's just that kind of thing is nuts to me. And we've talked to professionals like Sam from Mad Gear, who truly is a professional who couldn't even say half of the stuff that he knows on the show. But offline, we were talking about some of it, and after hearing his professional take on US counter-strike capability and whatnot, I am not worried about the EMP move down like 2 notches on my risk matrix after that conversation.
Yeah. And we've already discussed prepper myths and busting those. We've
Right.
discussed the EMP and what the odds of it actually happening and wasted weapon theory are. Uh,
Yep.
If EMP is really, really that high on your list, you already have a Faraday cage. So you
That's
may as
true.
well have the app anyways.
You might as well have the app anyway. So let's talk about where most preparedness kind of breaks down. It's usually not a lack of gear. I think preppers in general or hoarders, the gear isn't the issue. It's that lack of coordination. It's that lack of logistics. And no one really knows where anything is. Nobody remembers the plan, which is why you need mad gear. Half the batteries are dead. The medical supplies expired 3 years ago. Somebody moved the important documents to, I'm using air quotes, somewhere safe, and we don't know where it is, which really means they've now, vanished into the shadow realm permanently. So,
Guilty.
yeah. Oh, dude, I do this all the time. In fact, the dead battery thing, I'll tell you today, my alarm went off today and said, "Hey, it's your 4 month, pull your get home bag out and charge all the batteries." And so I have that on a 120-day rotation. I pulled it out and I noticed today, this is the second time this happens. So now I know I have an issue is my little, Baofeng 8-watt handheld. I keep it in a little Faraday bag in my get home bag with 2 batteries, and the battery that is attached to the radio was dead, and this is the second time, and the battery that's not attached to the radio was at 100% charge. So now I know for sure that that radio has a little vampire in it. Like it's even when it's off, it is sucking a little bit of power out of that. So when I charged both the batteries up, I put them back in the Faraday bag with not connected to the radio now. So I learned a little something about that. But yeah, there's a lot of that stuff, the logistics that I think are just very overwhelming unless you start writing things down.
Yeah. And every prepper listening right now, our entire audience has at least one notebook somewhere with something written in it like beans downstairs with absolutely zero context.
Right, or water rotation, check later.
Yeah, what does that even mean? Like, is Beans your next door neighbor's cat?
No one knows. No one knows. No.
So, really, today, what we wanted to talk about is these two preparedness focused apps that they really did catch our attention for different reasons. One of them is called ReadyFam, and the other is called NomadCore. Both of them, they did approach us independently, surprisingly within the same 5-day period, the same working week. Both are doing genuinely interesting things, and both represent, I think, something that we're going to see more of moving forward as we get more comfortable in merging the technological and analog sides of prepping. So, this is where preparedness becomes less about random piles of gear and more about integrated systems.
Yeah, and before anybody starts yelling at their dashboard right now, no. We are not saying apps are going to replace preparedness. That's not going to happen. They do not replace skills. They don't replace training. They don't replace redundancy. But they might reduce the friction that stops families from organizing in the first place. They may actually help you have a clear path to preparedness, especially with members of the family that are just kind of lukewarm on the idea or just don't have any more capacity to do anything else, right? People that just, I don't have any more capacity to help you prepare for this thing, honey. So this is on you.
Yeah, and this is huge because prepping isn't just about owning things. This is about reducing chaos. And when I say reducing chaos, this is about minimizing the actual chaos and controlling what you can. This is actually part of an upcoming episode on advanced pace planning. So, this is all controlling the chaos that you can and letting everything else just watershed off your back like a duck.
Yeah, exactly. And when we talk about this, this is what these apps do is this is helping you with your plan. It's helping you write things down. It is helping you move all of that stress and information out of your brain so you can think about other things, and it's reducing stress because you've written it down and it's within this app that you can go easily search and look at.
Yep. So, let's start with ReadyFam because honestly, this app immediately stood out to me for one big reason. it seems laser focused on making preparedness accessible to normal families, not just hardcore prepping enthusiasts.
Yeah, and that was probably the biggest thing I noticed too. And before people start writing stuff down, obviously this will all be on our blog for the week, right? We'll post links to both of these so you don't need to go Google ReadyFam because I noticed I found 1,000 different things when I tried to Google it. So we will get you to the right place. But ReadyFam feels like tactical preparedness software and more like how do we get ordinary people to stop procrastinating about emergency planning?
Yeah, and that honestly might be the more important mission. It's not a tactical plan, it's a logistical operation.
Right, exactly. Because most families are not going to sit down and create a full binder with laminated tabs and radio frequencies and fuel rotation schedules and a 6 layer pace communication structure. They're just not going to do that.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt to do that. And meanwhile, prepping people, they hear that and start sweating because they absolutely have done that and they know what kind of work goes into it. And they're like, I don't want to do that again.
Right. Yeah. Some of you out there probably have spreadsheets for your beans and rotation and expiration dates and all that kind of stuff.
And honestly, respect because that is a ton of work and that is the old school way of doing it now.
Mad respect. Game respects game.
Truth. Truth. But ReadyFam seems designed specifically to bridge that gap between I know I should probably prepare more and I have no idea where to even start, right? One of the biggest features they highlighted is something called the survival days score. And this was actually a really, really fascinating idea and a really cool feature to test out and work with while we were in that testing phase. It was
Y- y-
awesome.
Yeah, I thought so too, because most people genuinely have no idea how prepared they actually already are. They think preparedness means having, you know, a billion flashlights and 6 cans of soup in in the pantry or something. But ReadyFam tries to quantify that readiness into something understandable, not just food, but multiple categories of preparedness and logistics. And they're all sort of working together. And I like what you said about that, that it really it brings all of this stuff together. It's not just these individual little plans working independently. Now we're talking about, bringing everything together. And it's that almost like that 1+1 is 3 model.
Exactly. And I really like this concept because prepping failures are usually system failures. I mean, think of it this way: you can have 6 months of food and still be wildly unprepared if you don't have a water plan, or no medication redundancy, or no communications, or no sanitation capability, no power backup, no family coordination. The food is only going to get you so far, and if you've got no water plan, great. You're 2 days into a 6-month food plan and you're dead weight.
Right, exactly. You don't survive emergencies with one category. You survive with multiple layers.
And one thing they seem to understand very well with this app is household scale, because a lot of preparedness checklists are designed in this weird vacuum where everybody apparently lives alone in a cabin with unlimited shelf space and 5 guns and unlimited ammo and level 4 plates that magically absorb everything.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and then reality shows up, and suddenly you've got kids and medications and dietary restrictions and pets and aging parents and somebody in the house who absolutely refuses to eat canned peas under any circumstances.
Or allergies and an HOA president who is way too nosy for the apocalypse. I It happens, right? You can't store things outside because that violates such and such covenant of this rule, and if you don't get your bug out vehicle off of so and so's garden petunias, then you're gonna have a lien put against your house. Well, Karen, I'm sorry to say, it is the apocalypse. There are buildings burning 3 blocks away, and there's a tribe of raiders coming in from the south that are going to be here in 15 minutes. So if you will please get off of my lawn and let me load up my bug out vehicle, it will be off of these petunias in 6 minutes. I have timed it.
You
So,
really can't wait to get out of that, HOA, can you?
dude.
They're they're evil. No, it's true. But seriously, so ReadyFam, it adjusts inventory and recommendations based on actual household size and needs, which is honestly smarter than generic preparedness checklists. That's why I'm saying they apply some logic here, which I really like. And they also have a really cool risk matrix feature built in, which I love. It's awesome. Where basically you sort of tell it, hey, here's the things that I'm worried about, or here's people in my household that have this issue, and it gives you this real life, like a living, breathing risk matrix that moves based on your redundancy. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's self-adjusting, and 6 people require dramatically different logistics than 2 people do. Well, water alone becomes a completely different problem when you're dealing with a family of 5 versus a family of 2 versus a family of 7 when the in-laws are over.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of those logistical problems, they don't they don't increase linearly. So there's a lot of things that just because you've tripled the amount of people, you don't need to triple the amount of that thing. You don't need triple the can openers for 6 people that you do for 2, right? So, and like medication planning becomes a completely different, very complex problem.
Yeah, and this is another thing I really appreciated about the ReadyFam app. They're clearly trying to normalize preparedness instead of fear-mongering it. That's a
Right.
big thing.
Yeah, that's important because yeah, the fear-based prepping, it burns people out. And obviously we've talked about this. We've done entire episodes on this. It's very overwhelming when you're looking at preparedness from this fear-based these fear-based optics basically. So responsibility-based preparedness actually builds consistency. It makes you feel better about the outside world, not worse.
Well, for the most part, yes. So, one of the features I thought that was actually genuinely smart about this app was the inventory tracking, and it has expiration alerts, which is really cool because let's be honest, half of preparedness is forgetting where you put things and when you bought them. And I do you know how many times I have opened up the pantry and been like, "Ooh, I could use a snack. Oh, that expired in 2005."
Oh my god, man, absolutely. It's like you've got half of your supplies in there. I've done this recently where it was beef jerky, and I don't know, man, I just had a beef jerky craving, I opened it up, and it was, like, obviously, like, breakfast moldy, and I was like, I just you think about preserved meat sticks as just lasting forever, and they don't. They have a little expiration date on them, and I don't know how accurate it is, but, I was 4 presidents past that expiration date.
Your beef jerky was just dust.
Yeah, exactly, just moldy dust.
Exactly, and everybody loves buying preparedness supplies. We just did it this last weekend, but fewer people love maintaining preparedness supplies, and that's where it gets potentially overwhelming, and that's where it actually takes work. I can go and buy, you know, $5,000 worth of MREs and get super excited when the truck comes up and drops the pallet off at my garage, and then it just stays on the pallet in my garage because, well, I don't wanna unload that. That's a pallet full of MREs.
Yeah, and organized by menu and all those things. So, yeah, maintenance is the least sexy part of preparedness, and arguably, it's the most important.
I would agree, and ReadyFam seems to understand that. I mean, pantry, garage, medical supplies, bug out bags, power systems, actually tracking where things are stored and when they expire, it removes a ton of friction and makes just your logistics life a lot easier.
Yeah, friction really does kill preparedness consistency, and I've noticed that with this app with ReadyFam, where it gives you like kind of your lists, like, hey, here's your overall list, and things you maybe you didn't think about, like headlamps, very, very. important, right? Having a headlamp, I like a light band headlamp personally, but having headlamps, they are more utilitarian and they're better for some things and worse for other things than, say, a weapons light or a flashlight. And in the ReadyFam app, it says, hey, do you have a headlamp? And there's a spot where you just click and it will take you to Amazon and you can just go buy them. And that's crazy because normally if someone gave you a list of, "Hey, do you have these things covered?" And if the answer to one of those was no, you'd go, "Okay." And then you'd, like, pull out your phone and open up notes and, like, say, "Remind me to go to Amazon and buy a headlamp." And you don't have to do that. Like, within the app environment, you're looking down at these supplies and you say, "I need that. I have that. I don't need this." And then you get to one that you need and you go, "Oh, man." You just click a button and it will take you somewhere where you can just go get that on the way.
Yeah, and this is almost like those, Amazon Dash buttons that used to be
Yeah.
super popular.
Oh my gosh, I forgot all about those. The little buttons you could put all over your house to just buy stuff. I think those died out because kids just like to push them, and then you got, like, a truckload of Tide showed up one day. You're like, "What? Where did that come from?"
Yeah, and they died at our house because I liked to push them
Just
and
pushing buttons all the time? Yeah.
didn't realize that I was over ordering stuff because we had already stored it and I
Yeah.
didn't see it and pushed the button, pushed the
Yeah,
button, pushed the button.
you're that husband where you're like, you open up the fridge that's mostly ketchup, and you're like, "Honey, have you seen the ketchup?" But then you're like, "Hey, look at that mountain lion 4,000 yards away."
Well, thankfully, I did it with toilet paper just before COVID, so I was like,
Oh.
"Lizard, lizard, lizard, lizard,
Yeah.
lizard,"
You could
and
be you could be a toilet
we
paper
had
dealer.
a whole bunch of toilet paper that we really didn't need, and then we were like, "Oh, wait a minute, we don't have to shop for toilet paper along with all the crazy people."
You're right, and think about that's a perfect example that it is kinda like that dashboard button, except it tells you next to the button how much you already have in stock and what expires when.
Which
That's
is
awesome.
so much of a lifesaver, and another feature that really stood out to me, ReadyFam has a training and drills aspect. It's got a tab on there that you can go into training and drills, and this is something that we talk about constantly is owning gear does not equal capability. You have to practice your preps.
100%, and I actually went and watched some of their videos. They have a really cool where you can just link to videos, and they're categorized, so it's like, oh, it's, for kids or for, pets or whoever, and, I was just watching, I was like, "I'm not gonna learn anything," right? It's very kinda high level basic stuff, and I clicked on one, and it's Adam, who I don't know if he works for them or not. He describes himself as like a special forces soldier. I don't know. He's like former armored infantry sniper for the Boy Scouts or something. I don't know what he did, but he he uh he's got a video on how to prepare and eat an MRE. And I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty stupid. And I watched it anyway, right? And I never knew to eat MREs the long way, as in hot dog, not hamburger.
Really?
I never knew that. No, I mean, I've always opened them the way that they are supposed to be open, and then I'm using the spoon and trying to, you know, dig in the corner like I'm trying to dig a hockey puck out of the corner of the ice, like it's but yeah, opening it, he shows you how to like squeeze everything down the long way and open the MRE the long way because it's more efficient and easier to eat the MRE that way. I actually learned something in the how to prepare an MRE video. I thought it was silly. I was like, I'm never going to learn anything, but I'm going to watch the video anyway. Sure enough, super useful information.
So, just quick side note here. Um, when I was coming up in the army, one of my drill instructors, I think it was Drill Sergeant King. Yeah, it was Drill Sergeant King. Um, he taught us that, and he said, "All right, I'm going to teach you like you're in kindergarten. When you sit down to eat an MRE, you eat it hot dog style. You sit down to eat hot dogs. You eat
Nice.
hamburgers while you're on patrol." And that's when you eat it the
Oh,
short way,
that makes
you,
perfect sense.
you eat it like a little pouch. And so it keeps everything contained and you can eat it just while you're
Yeah.
on patrol so that if you have to drop it into your pocket, you just drop it
Yeah.
into your
You can
pocket, and
roll up
it's
the top a little. It's not gonna chili's not gonna get everywhere. That makes perfect sense. I like that. You sit down to eat hot dogs. So anyway, I learned something on the ReadyFam app in the video about preparing an MRE, which is like there's nothing they can teach you about preparing an MRE. It says rock or something on the side for God's sakes. But no, I did learn the proper way to eat MRE, the more efficient way, I will say, to eat an MRE. So I appreciate that, Adam, whoever did the video for ReadyFam. That was awesome.
yeah, and understanding how your gear works. I mean, just down to an MRE and how to eat it, but you can own water filters and still not know how to use them correctly. You can own radios and never practice communications. You can own generators, not realize during the storm that you forgot fuel stabilizer. And so all of your fuel is just jelly. I,
Right, which totally never happens to anybody, but that's why you do the dual or tri-fuel generators, and if you only run propane, man, you're never gonna gum up that carburetor.
that's true. Not even once, right?
Right, but I like that they are encouraging the drills. Even simple conversations truly matter, like, what do you do if the power goes out tonight? It sounds basic, but most families have never discussed it. You've got the dad that's like has all that information up in his head and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the one who's in charge." But, if the one person that knows how to operate the generator isn't there, then the family will just find themselves in chaos when the lights go out.
Most families don't even know where their fire extinguisher is, or after it's been used, they don't replace it.
Right? Or if it even works. Like those do expire and if they get all of the powder settles to the bottom there, you're just gonna get propellant and you're not gonna be able to put out a fire. I think a lot of people just don't know that.
Yeah, and ReadyFam also includes scenario simulations, which I think could be extremely valuable for newer prepper minded people because most people dramatically underestimate how quickly normal systems unravel during disruptions. And the way they plan this out or the way they programmed this scenario simulation, it goes deeper than just first level effects. It goes into second and third order effects. So
Y
you can
Yeah.
play with it quite a bit and war game your scenarios.
Yeah, and I think that it really did help you out with timelines too. People think disasters happen like the movies, like one giant dramatic event. And in reality, most emergencies, they really unfold in these stages. There's confusion, there's delays, there's supply shortages, there's communication breakdown, there's transportation issues, there's information gaps.
And honestly, boredom. An emergency is a lot of hurry up and wait. You know, they involve a shocking amount of waiting around, wondering what is happening and who is going to tell you what's going on.
Right. And then followed immediately by 12 minutes of pure chaos.
And then absolutely more waiting.
Right. And one other thing worth talking about is the AI prep assistant. And I know I didn't want to talk about AI, but I'm telling you, like, normally when people say AI and preparedness, they're like, no, this is Skynet.
Which, okay, fair. We've
Sure.
seen the movies. We've
We
seen all of the everything behind AI and what disaster can come of it. So fair.
right. Did you see that AI video recently of that Chinese robot kicking that kid in the face?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So AI is kind of I get it. I get the trepidation with AI. I have it myself. But in this case, I actually think that this contextual inventory assistant really makes sense. So being able to ask simple questions like, do I have enough water for a 2-week outage? Or what am I missing for a winter storm? It just lowers that barrier for people who don't know how to evaluate their readiness.
And I think that's the key is preparedness knowledge has historically had a pretty high entry barrier. You have to have this base knowledge before you can really leap into it. And a lot of people simply just don't know where to start. And this AI tool helps to lower that to make it an entry point for everybody.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if something feels overwhelming, most people are just going to kick the can down the road. They're just going to delay, delay, delay because it's like, that's the thing I don't want to do. It's so overwhelming. I don't want to deal with it.
Right, and that's why the barcode scanner feature in ReadyFam is honestly smarter than it sounds. It's reducing that setup friction even more, and that matters.
I really did like that. Yeah, they've got that barcode scanner, and then even like the speak to text thing they've got, where there's a great video of him online where he just goes into the pantry and he says, "Hey, I need more beans, or I need more rice, or when does all the rice I currently have expire?" And uh, this AI assistant is pretty awesome because, dude, if your preparedness system requires 4 straight hours of manual inventory input, most families are just going to quit halfway through the canned goods, and they're just never gonna come back.
Yeah, it's gonna be, "Honey, do we have any black beans?"
Right, yeah, and it's like, I don't know anymore. I entered 147 food items, and I have simply lost the will to live.
Exactly. So, and another feature I really liked was the zip code based risk matrix. You already mentioned that it had that risk matrix feature, but it is zip code based. So if you plug in your address, it will let you know what your highest actual weather related risks are. And, um, you know, your priorities should absolutely change based on where you live. You're up in the Pacific Northwest, AC, you're not gonna get a whole lot of, uh, you know, tornadoes or massive heat waves or things like that, but you are at a greater risk for earthquakes and tsunami risk even. Um,
Right?
w
Wildfires?
yeah, wildfires, whereas down here in the Mississippi Valley, I am at risk for tornadoes a lot, a lot. Had several warnings already this year. So,
Right. Yeah, I really did like that it just plugging in your zip code, it adjusts that risk matrix for you. So I really did like that. So that was something that was pretty cool. Seeing the live risk matrix was very, very cool. And finally, I think the that prep circles feature is actually one of the more forward thinking concepts they brought up, because preparedness is increasingly becoming community based instead of just purely individual. And we've talked about this. The lone wolf doesn't live very long.
yeah, and it mirrors reality. Very few people survive long-term emergencies alone. It's just a busted myth concept at this point. It's workable, but you're gonna have a hard time doing it. You're
Yeah, there's
gonna have a bad day.
that community resilience matters. The neighborhood coordination matters. The church groups, the shared skills groups, those kinds of things. So I really did like that. And that's where you could download this into a PDF or even into like what's the Excel spreadsheet? Is it CSV file?
Yeah, comma
Yeah.
separated values.
Yeah, so you could download this into a CSV file, and then you could send that to somebody and they can manipulate it on their own. So I really liked that when we talk about, okay, the grid goes down, the EMP, whatever, and this app isn't going to work for me, you can actually update and download in some common uh, platforms, and these common program files of all this stuff that you've put into the app, and then, like you said, you can share that with your mutual aid groups.
Exactly, and people a lot of the time forget that relationships are resources too.
Yeah, that's right, and that's probably one of the strongest philosophical ideas behind ReadyFam overall. It feels less like the survivalism and more like that coordinated family resilience, which leads perfectly into the other app, which is called NomadCore, because this app honestly feels like somebody took every preparedness binder, bug out notebook, map case, fueled manual, and every emergency planning document, and then shove them into this sort of offline ecosystem.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Nomad Core immediately got my attention because it approaches preparedness from more of a, I guess, systems and redundancy angle, if that makes sense. Um, the thing that feels very intentionally designed around the assumption that infrastructure may fail.
Right, which honestly separates it from a lot of other apps immediately.
Exactly. I mean, one of the biggest talking points they emphasized right off the cuff was this is offline first, and that matters enormously.
Right, and people quietly assume internet access will continue after emergencies, and I really did like that this was really built for the offline world. This is built for the people that say the internet's going to go down immediately and I'm never going to be able to, do anything online, so why would I ever have a preparedness app? I think this really does answer that argument.
Yeah, because I mean, we can look at the data. I mean, recent disaster data shows that that's not true because towers fail, power fails, networks overload just by so many people calling 911. Infrastructure degrades and just collapses during a disaster. It is a complex problem, and when something happens to disrupt it, it can quickly become overloaded and fail.
Yeah, and when that happens, a huge percentage of modern apps become decorative rectangles, basically.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. And Nomad Core, it really does seem to be built around the idea that your critical information should still function without connectivity. So, offline maps, downloadable resources, GPS functionality without service, cached map tiles, those are genuinely useful concepts.
Yeah, the offline map thing was really cool to me because, I have other apps that have the offline maps, and even if you're somebody that maybe will download the Google Maps or something of somewhere you're going to go because you don't know if you're going to have uh, service, those require you to re-download after some amount of time. They will delete them from your phone. You won't be able to use them. This actually has truly offline maps that don't expire.
And it's a huge deal because most people don't realize how dependent they become on real time navigation systems until those systems disappear.
Yeah, I mean, Google Maps is incredible until it suddenly isn't.
If you've ever rerouting,
Yeah,
rerouting.
exactly. Rerouting.
No, no, that was my turn. Stop, stop. But Nomad Core, it also allows waypoints that you can set, rally locations, water sources, shelters, danger zones, meetup points to be stored and accessed offline, which is really, really cool because you can save known points and then pull them up later. And this is legitimately practical preparedness in super, super compact functionality
Yeah, especially for families.
or road travel
Yep. Or evacuation scenarios.
or even just severe weather events where infrastructure becomes unreliable.
Right. Yeah. And one thing I appreciate about this app, about the Nomad Core app, is seems heavily grounded in this source information instead of sort of random internet survival mythology.
Yeah, that definitely stood out to me, like, immediately. They are pulling procedures and references from things like FEMA, Red Cross materials, military field manuals, medical references like, Where There Is No Doctor, that book. If you haven't read it, it's great. And other traceable open source preparedness resources. So all of this, it will tell you where it is getting the information. It's not just going to ChatGPT or Claude and saying, "How do I fix a broken leg?" And you end up with your ankle strapped to your ear.
Right, right, which matters because I think a lot of online information will say it's there's AI hallucinations out there, right?
Yeah, it's generously uneven.
Yeah, and there is a difference between field tested emergency procedure and guy on YouTube wearing night vision explaining how pine needles cure radiation poisoning.
I that's valid. Preparedness absolutely has an information quality problem sometimes. Somebody needs to be the prepper QA.
Although I will say that pine needle tea is, as Bear Grylls says, it's got enough vitamin C to get you across the glacier.
It is surprisingly tasty, actually.
It's kinda tasty, isn't it? It's kind of interesting. So,
You have
anyway,
you have to
y
break the needles first, though.
you have to break that's exactly right. You have to break the needles. So, yeah, having this searchable offline procedures for CPR, wound care, shelter building, water purification, fire starting, emergency skills, things like that. It's funny because going through this, because we have pulled a lot of data for a lot of our episodes off things like the US Army Field Manual. And when you look at this app, you're like, "Oh, they're covering the same fire starting things we did. They're covering the same shelter building we did because they're pulling it from these reputable sources."
Yeah, and this is kinda critical, especially under stress, because people wildly overestimate how well they retain information during emergencies. So, if you get the incorrect information, even just one time, it can be potentially devastating. So, you
Yeah,
have to practice it right,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you fall back on your lowest level of training, but stress absolutely destroys that memory recall.
and that's why field manuals exist in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And another feature that I thought was was really smart, was the emergency planning structure, like the rally points and the medical info, um, family assignments, grab bag responsibilities, the timed drills, things like that. I really liked that emergency planning structure they have in there.
Right. There's one thing I think I've got this right. They said if your family doesn't have a plan, you don't have a plan. And the line they use there, it's it's correct.
Yeah, that's so true because yeah, if only one person understands the emergency plan, then you don't actually have a plan. What you have is a single point of failure.
Exactly. 100%. Totally
And,
agree.
and I really liked they have this QR code sharing and syncing concept too, which is pretty cool. So being able to distribute updated plans to family members without everybody manually rebuilding documents, that I thought that was super practical.
Especially for larger families. Grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, cousin 1 through 17.
Yeah, the old people that yeah, like before COVID, they were the only ones who'd ever seen QR codes because we just never used them.
Yeah, separated households, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, there's teenagers who actually will not remember anything unless it appears directly in front of them on their phone.
This is very true.
Yep.
Uh, and another thing that NomadCore seems to understand very, very well is privacy concerns within the preparedness community. We already
Y
referenced this, but they get it.
yeah. Dude, that was huge. I mean, they're very upfront about that this is they really do respect privacy. No one else is getting your information, and that is not a small issue.
Not at all. A lot of preparedness minded people are deeply uncomfortable uploading inventories or medical data, IDs, emergency plans, family details into any kind of random cloud system. Even medical data systems that they have to like upload their ID into their doctor's portal.
Yeah, I totally get that. And if you think about it, we're giving you both of these apps, the ReadyFam and the Nomad Core, and there is a little bit of redundancy. But if you download both of these apps, then you're making it even harder for Skynet to steal your stuff because you're kind of separating it between these two apps. You know what I mean?
And Nomad Core repeatedly emphasizes local device storage, encryption, no ads, no subscriptions, no data selling, and privacy first architecture. So that's really going to matter a lot to people who are concerned about privacy theft or data selling or whatever you want to call it, data tracking, any of that.
Yeah, right. Especially because so many modern apps basically function as a data harvesting operation disguised as services. I mean, that's really what it is. So these guys, they're not doing anything like that.
Yeah, congratulations on your preparedness journey. You searched for a flashlight. We have now sold your flashlight preferences to 17 advertisers. You're going to get 35 emails in the next 12 seconds.
Dude, did you hear the whole thing about, like, the Pokemon Go
Oh,
app?
yeah, Niantic. That
Yeah.
was
Th
wild.
they were using all of that data just to basically map the planet, and you were paying them to do it. I think that's like next level evil genius. You know what I
Talk
mean?
about
I
talk about free labor crowdsourcing. They were getting paid by their employees to do the work for them.
Right, yeah, that's crazy. So, it's true that a lot of these apps do a lot of data harvesting, and somewhere there is absolutely an algorithm that knows which one of you bought bulk iodine tablets at 2 a.m.
You can't see me, but I'm wagging my finger.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So another really interesting feature that I liked, and I think you had actually given them a lot of useful feedback on this one, Chris, was that SOS beacon system. So this one tap emergency comms with GPS coordinates, battery level, address info, and pre-filled SMS messaging. I thought that was really cool. You hit the button and it just does this thing. It sends a blast email or text out. It calls 911. It tells people where you are and what your battery level is and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, this is honestly one of those things that you hope you never need, but would be incredibly useful under stress. And it doesn't matter what kind. If you need 911, you push a button, SOS, everybody hears it, everybody comes running.
Right. And yes, another thing stress destroys besides your short term memory is your typing ability. It's crazy. When you're super stressed out and your fingers are cold and numb, you cannot type, especially on something that is not tactile like your phone. RIP Blackberry.
And if you think you can do it, test yourself. Have your family members all try to tell you a story at the same time while the TV is on full blast and send a message to your best friend.
Yeah, that's true.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
100%. Yeah, right.
So, I think people also kind of forget how cognitively impaired panic can make you. I mean, pre-built systems do matter, so having that button makes it faster, makes it muscle memory, makes it just go and stress-free. You can focus on the task at hand.
Of course. And one thing I do want to say, though, and I think this is important for both apps, is preparedness apps still have limitations. And that's why we have like our friend Sam at Mad Gear, where you're actually just writing things down. If you're super anti app, I get it. We get it. There are limitations to apps.
Yeah, of course.
Right. I mean, batteries die, phones break, storage gets corrupted, electronics fails, solar charging fails, water destroys your electronics. The EMP discussions aside, simple reality destroys electronics all the time.
Which means digital preparedness should supplement, not replace, analog preparedness.
Exactly. Like these critical contacts should still exist on paper. Important documents should still have physical redundancy. Families should still practice plans without relying entirely on apps. But I'll give you an example like the insurance documents, right? Like having it on your phone is so handy. If I get pulled over, I have my insurance on my insurance app and I can show it to the cop without opening my glove box that's got 3 grenades and 2 9mm in it, right? But if that phone fails, then yes, I have backup paper copies of the insurance.
I mean, don't open your glove box all the way.
Yeah, just kind of just like, "Hey, can you look the other way while I open my glove box, officer?" That would go
So,
over great.
yeah, preparedness apps are tools. They are not magic. They are not the end all be all. You're not going to suddenly get 50-pound bags of rice out of your phone.
Right, but honestly, they might solve one of the biggest modern preparedness problems, which is this organizational paralysis. It's this just logistical numbness, right? We get so focused on what can I do right now, right this second? And we don't want, like you said, we don't want to deal with the maintenance. We don't want to deal with the logistics. So then we just end up not preparing.
Yeah, most people don't fail preparedness because they hate preparedness. They fail because it feels overwhelming. This is like when you were a little kid and you're told to go clean your room. It had been so long that you cleaned your room, you didn't even know where to start. So you just start playing with crap in the middle of the floor and then get yelled at for not cleaning your room.
Right. And both of these apps, they're intentionally designed, I guess, to lower that preparedness barrier.
Yeah. And one is through simplicity and the other is through family integration.
Yeah, and one is through systems integration and one is sort of that offline redundancy.
Exactly. So, which honestly makes them complementary more than competitive. They don't butt heads. They do fill in gaps in each other's weaknesses. And that's why having both can be critical.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. But both of these have a place, 100%.
And I think there's another important philosophical point here too. Preparedness is evolving. So 10 years ago, preparedness conversations were heavily gear centric. It was, did you see what they released at SHOT Show this year? Did you see this new bag that came out? Did you see this new piece of gear? Did you see this new filter? All of that.
Right. It was, yeah, buy this thing and then go buy this other thing. And you're now apparently prepared because your garage looks like an REI.
Exactly. But increasingly and more often, preparedness is shifting towards coordination, communication, planning, redundancy, maintenance, and resilience systems.
Right. Which honestly is like way healthier.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is healthier mentally, physically, and budgetarily.
Yeah, I guess because preparedness, it shouldn't become identity cosplay. It should become simply practical capability.
That's a really good way to put it. So, one thing I appreciated from both of these apps is that neither one seems especially fear driven, right? They're both very focused on practicality and reducing chaos where they can.
Yeah, which aligns with obviously us, right? With our philosophy here is it's not fear driven. It's not every day's the apocalypse. It's simply how do we make preparation easier with a little lower barrier to entry and just not so stressful to like try to track your pantry.
Yeah, being prepared should reduce your anxiety, not amplify it.
Yeah, yeah, and preparedness should create competence, not dependency,
Ooh, that's a good one. I like
you
that.
know? So, if you're listening to this episode, our recommendation is not throw away your binders and trust your entire survival to your phone. That's not what we're saying here at all.
Please don't do that.
Don't
Please don't do
don't
that.
do not do that. But these are absolutely tools worth evaluating based on your own preparedness style, like your family structure, your comfort level with technology, and honestly, like your regional risks.
And that's a good point. And honestly, if an app gets somebody to finally organize their emergency contacts and rotate supplies and discuss evacuation plans and store medical information securely, or actually put their money where their mouth is and run drills and practice their preps with their family for the first freaking time, that's a net positive.
Huge, huge, absolutely huge.
So it's because the best preparedness system is the one you will actually maintain consistently, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, even if it does start digitally.
I totally and 100% wholeheartedly agree with that.
So, if you want to check them out, ReadyFam and NomadCore are both available on iOS and Android. And NomadCore's website, it's nomad-core.com, but you don't need to know that. We'll put it in the blog. Both of these are awesome. And they gave us a code for our listeners for ReadyFam. It's the discount code is Stakeholder 20. Again, we'll put that in the blog, so you don't need to write this down while you're driving. But it gives users 20% off of any of their AI enhanced feature, which is kind of that highest tier plan. And there is this kind of secret squirrel level Easter egg if you're observant and fast when you get into the app and apply the code. But I guess that's kind of all we're allowed to disclose because they don't want us saving you too much money, apparently.
And I mean, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
So, and we do really encourage everybody listening to test your own systems, verify your own assumptions, build your own redundancy. Remember that preparedness is ultimately about reducing chaos for the people that you care about and yourself.
Yeah, it's not about fear, it's not about paranoia. I mean, it's not about pretending you're staring at your own post-apocalyptic action movie, right? That's not what this is.
Even if you are wearing night vision while organizing your pantry, we do understand that. It's just it looks a little funny when you're on your Ring camera in the
Yeah.
middle of the night. So,
So check these apps out. Like I said, not for everybody, but they both have some really amazing, totally free features. Like both of them have great free features. And go to our blog. Obviously, we said this before, stakeholderprepping.com. We maintain a blog for every single episode that we do that has the list of all the things we talk about. We'll obviously have links to all this. We'll have the discount code that they've given us. And yeah, check these out. I'm impressed with both of them. I think I probably will lean on them a little bit, and I've already noticed myself like uncomfortably leaning on these a little bit, like which is kind
mhm.
of funny. Like I'm a little uncomfortable with it, but I'm like, wow, this is actually very cool, especially like the offline maps in Nomad Core, I really like. And then this sort of living, breathing risk matrix in ReadyFam, I really like because it's like, oh, like right now we are in the middle of a heat wave where I am. And it's kind of cool because I'm looking at it on my risk matrix and it's like, yeah, hey, extreme heat is on your risk matrix. It's showing up. And I need to think about that. Like, hey, what's my plan if the power goes out and the air conditioning dies and those kinds of things. So both of these are awesome. Go check them out. We'll have links for both of them. I'm just pretty impressed because we actually have had a lot of people ask us about simple apps. I think people have asked me more, Chris, is like inventory tracking, right? Like how
Right.
do I
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
track my inventory, track the amount of, I'll call it people days of water that I have for everybody in my extended family and my pets and things like that. So they're just really valuable apps, and it's just valuable information to sort of get this stuff out of your head. Stop being the only person in your family that has a plan and propagate this out to everybody and say, "Hey, look, I did all the work. This isn't that scary."
Yeah. That's
Right?
precisely it, especially when you can do all the work and then share it to them and they have
Yeah.
it in hand for free.
Right.
That's too
Yeah. And
perfect.
and speaking of preparedness that we do every week, next week we have a preparedness author on, right? As a
Y Yeah,
our
Kate
guest,
Gilronin.
Kate Gilronin, and I bet a lot of you haven't heard of her simply because she's more of a young adult fiction author, but the books are good. And we're going to chat with her about the research she did. It's crazy. I see a lot of the preparedness authors that are hardcore preppers and then they go write these books, right? Like 1 Second After or any like James Wesley Rawls books. He's a prepper, right? And so he goes and writes these books based on his own experience. And what Kate has done is she wasn't a prepper. And then she said, I want to write these books. And so then she kind of went and became a prepper so she could write these books. Like she went
Yeah.
and gathered this experience and actually got like college degrees in, emergency management so she could go write a book. So anyway, the books may not be 100% for you, but I think there's definitely little bits of there's stuff in those books that'll make you think, and I think it's going to be fun to chat with her about just the method in which she wrote those books, and why she decided to write young adult prepper fiction.
Yeah, it was a very, very good read. Both books were. So, and she is super high energy. She's a lot of fun to be around. So, next week is going to be a great interview. I do have
Yeah.
one housekeeping item before we we close out. Uh, so, do you remember in our TACNAV card kit what all comes in it?
Let me think here. So there is the TACNAV card itself. There is a uh little Tinder card with a target that also has. I put these things together. I should know this. There's that on the back side of that Tinder card is sort of the packing list, and then there is a really cool sticker and a Fresnel lens and an instruction card. I think that's everything.
That's the one, is the Fresnel lens. I actually got a direct message from a physics major. We've been mispronouncing that the entire time.
Stop. How do you say it?
Fresnel.
No, it's not. Stop. Really?
It's fancy because it's French.
No way. Is that true?
Fresnel. It is
That's
a
cr-
Fresnel lens instead of
oh, it's the
Fresnel.
okay. It's just another reason to hate the French. I took 3 years of French, and I only learned how to say "I surrender." So, all right, that's crazy. It's Fresnel? Is that right?
Yeah, apparently
Fresnel.
I
I mean,
was like
it's
2
named
days
after
ago
the
old.
dude that invented that kind of lens, and that lens is specifically they used them in lighthouses because they couldn't put this big, super long, like telephoto-y type lens on the light, but it needed to, project light very far in, off the coast in fog or whatever. And so it was designed by someone of the same name that it actually magnifies, but in a very skinny, small footprint.
Right. That or more fire, which I know you're a big fan of, but
Or I'm a big fan of fire. You know what's funny about that it's French because it doesn't appear to have any of the accent aigus and accent grecs and all the little, special little, uh, French characters that let you know when to pronounce something funny. So that's surprising.
well, that is what the physics major told me, and he said
Fresnel.
he finally got to put his physics degree to use.
Oh, well, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I'm happy that we could help out with that. So it's Fresnel. Got it. Anyway, our yes, that's what's in the TACNAV card pack. So
Yeah,
go buy one. Go to stakeholderprepping.com and you can get a link to our eBay store there and you can own your very own stakeholder prepping Fresnel lens.
yeah. So I know we went a little bit over, but that's okay. Join us next week for talking about prepper books with Kate Gilronan. And until then, remember, you are your own stakeholder. We'll see you then.